Durka Rajeshkumar, a high school senior who is very interested in poetry as well as articles. I'm a strong believer of the quote, "The pen is mightier than the sword," and along those lines believes in making an impact in the society through what I write. Today, I'm here on behalf of the Teen Pop magazine. The Teen Pop magazine, which is the first online magazine for high schoolers that gives young, aspiring journalists the opportunity to share their voice, build their writing portfolio, and receive peer feedback and mentorship in the editorial industry. If you would like to write for them, check their website, theteenpop.com. Today, I'm in conversation with the founder president, Debargha. He is a second-year student of law at Gujarat National Law University. He leads Project Saathi as its president and heads the research division. His areas of research interest are education, child rights, prison reforms, and constitutional law. He actively mentors and various nonprofits and firmly believes in student empowerment. Project Saathi is an NGO whose vision and aim is to reach out to every student, irrespective of their background, and provide the best opportunities and mentorship from their end. In order to achieve this vision, they have charted out a few aims and objectives on which our organization runs. So tell me, Debargha, how are you doing today?
I'm good, Durka. How are you doing? Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, it's a pleasure. So, shall we move on to the questions?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, so can you please tell us why and how you chose to make your transition from law and research to a human development field?
I think it's, rather than calling it a transition, I would call it a harmony between law and the social work. So as you know, I'm a law student and I have been reading law since 1 year. And I believe that to understand the law per se, you need to see its interplay with the society. For example, if I'm reading about the new national education policy that is being talked about, so I cannot understand how applicable it is or how viable it is unless I see the conditions of the different schools or colleges that are actually present, right? From the government schools to private schools and then even for colleges. So I think to understand law in a much better perspective, I have tried to make a harmonious relationship with social work, and that is where I come from. So it's not like a transition, but like a harmony that I've made so that it helps me like bridge the gap between the two, number one, and to solve the purposes from both the ends. So if I understand law now with the social implications, I can serve better as a law student, and also with the knowledge of the legal background, I can serve the society better. So this is where I come from.
That is a very good thought. So how many years did it take for you to work on this idea, and why did it take till 2019 to finally launch it?
So Project Saathi was something that was always in my mind. I really wanted to work in the field of education. That was somewhere I realized that was my calling, but I didn't know where to start. So it was in 2019 when I did my first internship under an NGO. That was in November 2019, and it used to work. I mean, it works in the field of prison reforms. It's Studio Nilima. It is an action-based NGO located in Guwahati, Assam, India. So when I worked there, I realized that when you have an idea, it's not very difficult for you to like implement it. And I was actually I can say that I was lucky to have such a great number of mentors who were like actually constantly monitoring my work and seeing how I go about. So it didn't just serve as an internship for me, a very fruitful internship for me, but provided me a base on which I could rely upon and start my venture. So after that, I spent around a month. I always had this idea in mind, so didn't have to work on the ideation. So, and the team also per se, I knew the like-minded people I have in my friend circle and in my professional circles till then. So I knew, okay, these were the people I wanted to work with. So let me just formally call them, let's have a meeting, let's discuss what we have right now on the table and, start the work. So that is how we started. And we formally started the NGO on the 7th December 2019. And since then we have been trying our best to, fulfill our objectives that we set.
Okay. So is this a linear or progressive style of starting an NGO or a foundation? Like, is there a linear or progressive style of starting an NGO or a foundation?
I think every NGO or every foundation per se has its own way of starting. It always starts with that one idea. It has to come from within that, okay, you want to work in this field. You cannot go vague and say that, okay, I want to start a non-profit and you don't know what exactly you want to do. So for example, for me, my calling was education. Even in education, it could be anything, right? It could be education research, it could be college education, it could be school education. And what kind of work do you want to do? There's so much to do around. So I narrowed it down to like, okay, I wanted to work with school children, and the areas that I wanted to work were like, going and like, collaborating with government schools. And also, since I was a law student, I was interested in policy making. So I thought, why not use it like, to work in the field of education policy. So that's how, you would like, narrow down your broader idea to those objectives that you have. And with regards to your question on progressive or linear, I wouldn't make it as sound as methodical. Let me say that it just starts with an idea. Some people take years to build an idea. Some people have the experiences, and then just it comes in a day or like a month. So the ideation, the thought process is important. The willingness to contribute to that particular idea, your association with that idea, that needs to be strong. You have to endure, like, that has to go on for a long period of time. It's not just like 1 month long adventure that you're doing. So once you have that, then it just comes on like, to forming a team, and, doing the basic nitty-gritties of it, and just planning out your initiatives, your aims and objectives, and then the initiatives. And then I think you can like, step by step, you can keep working on it.
So you mean like for anybody who's willing to start an NGO, they need to find something that moves them? Like,
yeah, definitely. You need to find something that moves you. I mean, for example, I was speaking to one of my juniors the other day, and she told me that she has something with regards to cancer. So she has one of her family, very close family members, who passed away due to cancer. So she has this association and a bond with this particular area. So so her idea of starting a non-profit is to like, uh, advocate about cancer, and like, how to prevent cancer, how to actually like, how to go about in the treatment, financial help to the patients. So you need to have that association with that particular idea. So I mean, I'm just giving her example because I was just talking about her with her like some time back. And then for me it was education, because like, I saw something happening around my schooling, and I always felt that, why is the government schools child like, so different from us? Like, why is this like, why do we, I mean, whenever I go for inter-school competition, why don't I see a child from a government school? Why does it have to be that elite set of schools I know, like in the 5, 6, 7 schools who just compete? Why not like, make it equitable and, bring everyone in the picture in the race? So that's how my inspiration, my objective, like, came up from. And for her, it was different. So I think you need to have that association with that particular idea, that gives you a like very strong impetus to like, let it grow.
okay. So could you please describe us how Project Saathi and your perspective of what the institution aims to do in Project Saathi?
Okay. So Project Saathi starts with a very small idea. It is access to education and mentorship for life. So if you talk about the objectives, I'll tell you the various verticals we work in. So there is something called the capacity building workshops division. So that particular division, I have one of my core team members leading it. So what that division does is it collaborates with the government schools, various government schools. Right now we are located in Assam, so we have started like, catering to Guwahati, place we are residing in. And then we expanded to Assam and then the Northeast. So we collaborate with different government schools, and we provide them capacity building workshops. So we go to a school for perhaps like 3 to 5 days, and then we plan certain series of sessions with them. And that depends on the particular school. So if I go to a girls' school, I mean, I went to a girls' school this January. So their principal told me that, these were the particular XYZ problems that they were facing, right? And then based on those problems, we need to find out certain sessions that can help them. For example, I'll just give you one example that the girls in that particular school, their parents were mostly daily wage earners, or people working in the households per se. So their parents could, like, the children could not, like, the girls could not be dropped to school and be picked up even in the morning or in the wee hours. So like, the students often felt this sense of insecurity when they were going back to their homes, and sometimes like people had to walk for like even more than 5-6 kilometers to like, reach home from school. So like they had this sense of insecurity, right? So we thought of curating a self-defense workshop. So we consulted a few people in the field of karate, judo, and we designed a kind of a session, like a 2-hour session. So we taught them tips of like, how to like, basically react to something, an immediate threat that comes to you, right? I mean, different self-defense techniques. We told them how to remain fit. Like, it's not just the physical bit, but the mental bit also. When someone tells you that, you need to be strong and in the right manner, in a manner that, it's certified and proven, tested and proven. So that actually has a deep impact. So we had a session on that. And also these workshops, what happens is a lot of volunteers from our teams go from different schools, right? And then when they could interact with the government schools, there's a lot of cultural exchange that takes place, because like, two parts of society are meeting that time. So it builds a very strong sense of harmony between the two. The students from government school, like, interact with so many different students. And from our volunteer set, like, they also realize, okay, like, these are the people whom we need to cater to. So there's a strong sense of social responsibility that is developed in our volunteers. So that is one bit that we do. The second bit is the mentorship series. So what we have is, whenever we go for a workshop in any of the schools, we open up all the students to a kind of the Saathi mentorship program. So if there's a student who is very close, who finds one of the mentors or the volunteers of our team very approachable, and their interests or their field of specialization are somehow coinciding, so we connect them, both of them. So for example, there is a student who is interested in the field of music, and when I was taking a small session on music, I could see that girl, like, showing a lot of interest in it. However, she did not know where to undergo training and how to go about. Often, like, music schools charge a lot of fees. So how do I pay, like, the music schools? So I was in touch with her. I mentored her, like, so you can start this way, you can do this and that. I connected her with a few people whom I have in my circles. So, we have this mentorship series. So we connect students in that way, beyond their schools or set of schools per se. We break that. And then beyond that, we also have our research division. So also, there's a lot of work in the field of education policy. And unless we students, like, stand and, like, express our opinion in a proper manner, not just like, we write a social media post, or we just talk about it. We have to, like, find out ways how we can actually be a part of the consultation process when a government is taking a decision that impacts us, right? So accordingly, that research division works in the field of various research objectives, promotes them. I know. And so these are the kind of work, different specializations that Project Saathi so far has been doing.
That's very good initiatives. So now let's talk about funding. How has your organization been able to source and manage funds?
I think funding remains a very, you can make it generalized, but also different NGOs have the different strategies to work about. The certain NGOs, who start. So this is something that we have adopted. So we adopted the model of crowdfunding right now. So since we started new, since, like, talking from, because the audience will be a student based audience, I'm just, like, opening up here. A lot of times when we start something, there's often a loss. Like, there's an assumption that, the organization wouldn't be as credible as it should be if I were running it, like, at an elder age, senior age. Because, okay, I'm a school student or a college student, I'll have different work, and how much will be my commitment to this organization? So people are skeptical about it, and let's be frank about it. So what happens is, you have to ensure that, you show your credibility. I mean, how do you show your credibility? Initially, you have to start with an idea. It has to be very moving, right? And then you have to show a sense of commitment. How do you do it? By starting to do the work. You can't just, like, sit with an idea and expect someone to fund you and then you start with your project. I think that's something that will not work in our case. So what you have to do is, you have to start working on it. Whenever you find time, start working on it. Like, start with crowdfunding. Ask your friends to help you, like, in small bits and pieces. Start with smaller objectives, like smaller initiatives that you can actually, like, cater to. And then slowly and steadily, you'll see, like, people actually following you, your elders seeing the sense of commitment that they have towards the that you have towards the organization. And I think with that, you'll see people slowly and steadily, like, finding a, like, trusting in your organization and your aims and objectives, and also you as a founder. So once you obtain that trust, that makes it very easy for you to actually, like, get funding.
So you need to really show them that you're into it and you really want to do it.
Definitely.
So research show that donors are becoming more informed about how NGOs spend donated funds. From your perspective, what's the percentage that an upcoming NGO should spend to cover overhead?
I think when you talk about the overheads, it again depends on the type of NGO and the type of work you're doing. I'll tell you, for example, let's take two contrasting NGOs here. One NGO that is that started in the field in times of the pandemic, everyone at home, and it is working in the field of mental health, right? And they are trying to advocate mental health through various online campaigns, like guest sessions, like doing seminars, doing webinars, workshops, and different competitions per se. So you see here, the people know that your cost margin will be very less. Like what it takes to you to what takes you to actually organize an in webinar is your internet connection and perhaps a device that you would require, versus another NGO that is perhaps working with the rural sector, right? For example, I am working with an organization that works for flood relief. So in flood relief, we understand that when you go to donate the relief material, you have to also incur a lot of charges in terms of transportation, right? Number one, you have to carry all the material. That's something that you have to bear. Then the second thing is your own transportation and your team's travel expenses. Number two. Then again, you'll also have to procure a lot of things. So the the cost you'll actually incur in buying a lot of things and organizing everything, the labor charges, and there's so many charges actually. So there it is understood that your overheads will be way higher as compared to scenario one. So I think this is again something that will depend on your organization, the kind of work you do. In our case, we have a mix of both the online campaigns right now because we can't really go out much, and versus we also have a lot of campaigns we do on the grassroots level. So how you cover overheads is you'll be transparent about it. Even if you're spending if your team member is going to an XYZ location for some work, make sure your team member attaches a bill for the cab, or make sure you have all your records very clearly maintained. So for us, we have an extensive finance division run by one of my core team members. So whenever I incur any kind of cost, I share the receipts immediately, and that person maintains a record of everything. And once, what we do is, whenever we are concluding our in a campaign or an initiative, we release a report on our blog site, or we release a report where we show all the receipts and the transactions in a very transparent manner. So we tell them, this is what was the charge, this is what we had to incur, this is the funding that we got, this is something that we had to manage on our own, and this is what the outcome is. So once you do that, it's about gaining credibility. Okay, it's about making sure that people realize, okay, they have faith in you. Once you are able, your organization and you as an individual are able to build that faith in the people in your community, in your donors, then automatically you'll get good donations and you'll be able to cover your overheads without any much of a problem.
That is very impressive. So putting your life into perspective, when you sense fear or discouragement, how do you generate confidence?
It's, in my case, there are days when you feel low, you do not know how to go about. There's a block that somehow is created in your mind. You do not know how to pass it. You can't do anything. You just want to sit back and you don't know. In those cases, I think what really helps me push me is I just take a look at what I have been able to do and what purpose I'm able to serve. So I think more than an organization per se, you should stick by a purpose that you want to fulfill in your life. So if you know what's your purpose, and that happens gradually, it's not something you'll have one day. So when you keep doing things, you'll understand, okay, this is the common line that I've been doing so far. Okay, is this my call? Is this my calling? So accordingly, when you find your purpose, so you just need to contemplate and see, okay, so this is what I was doing till yesterday, and today I'm not doing something. It's all right. So tomorrow, will I be able to go back to my purpose or not? So if you have that clear sense of vision and your purpose, you wouldn't, there are times, when you should not associate your ultimate goal with an organization or an individual or even an institution. Because someday, I also know that Project Saathi, someday it wouldn't be mine anymore. It would be someone else's, I wanted to remain a student movement. So I have to hand it over to another person who is capable enough to, continue working on it. So it doesn't mean I keep my name associated to the organization forever. but I need to have a purpose that I'm trying to serve. Today it was through this organization, tomorrow it would be some other way. So when you have a purpose, that is where you generate confidence from, you generate your inspiration. When you say you need to be like a lot of people say, you need to be self-motivated, you should know where you draw your motivation from. I think people don't go and explain these basics here. I think the basic way of putting it is like, just have a purpose. It develops over time, but once you do, it'll be very easy for you to navigate your way out.
I think this particular answer that you gave applies to a lot of people, not only in your genre, but to a lot of kids, young kids these days who are very disheartened with themselves and don't know what to do. So, what is the hardest part of running an NGO? Like, what are the daily obstacles that you need to combat to keep your NGO afloat?
I think it's that cohesion that you maintain with your group, because when you start, you have a small team, you have a very strong sense of communication, people share a very strong sense of social responsibility towards the society, and responsibility within collective responsibility within your team. But as and when the team grows, oftentimes you see that a volunteer or like a person member does not share the same amount of responsibility as you do, right? So that is where that is where there's a problem that we find. And I think that happens the more you work, you keep working, you'll encounter different people in your organization, and not everyone will have the same sense of giving back to society. People have their own objectives. It could be selfish, it could be selfless. They have different objectives, right? So you have to find out the best people who actually work with you, and finding the best people actually and working with them is like what actually is one of the toughest jobs. And then after that, I think it's always the funding that anybody would agree to me in this sector. So funding is something that always remains. But again, you have your way out. If you have one person who actually believes in you, and that person generates that initial stimulus to your organization, and later on it's just it makes it easy for you.
Okay, so to the people reading this and probably thinking that they can't accomplish what you have accomplished, what would you like to say to them?
Simply, if you have an idea, just make it into a proper structure. Don't just have an idea and tomorrow you'll regret. I swear, having an idea and not working on it is worse than not having anything at all in your mind. So if you're having an idea, anything, it could be for an organization, it could be writing a story, it could be writing a book, it could be publishing a paper, it could be anything actually. So when you have an idea, just try to work on it, find the right mentors. That's very, very important. I am successful because I had the right set of mentors. So it's about how you look out for the right people who can guide you. There are always people. You'll find a lot of people, and you'll find your people in the areas of work you want to do. So once you do that, try to develop your idea better, think about it, and then once you make a structure, start working it out, implementing it, and then you'll see your results gradually. But don't sit with an idea just because I've thought of an idea and then I'll just sit with it. Don't do that.
Okay, so I just have one more question. This is from my side. I really wanted to know about the food relief project that you have been recently doing.
Okay, so it is actually the flood relief, and we call it the Ekaloge campaign. So if you know, since we work in the field of education, it's not directly related to our agenda. However, what draws us to this campaign is basically it is since Assam floods has been like a perennial issue right now. It just happens every year. And when I was in high school, I realized I didn't know how to actually contribute to making a difference in this time. And this is the time when actually your state requires you. But now since I have the means and I have a team and everything, so we had a set of organizations which came together under a common banner of Ekaloge. And then soon we saw that there were more than 50 organizations, all youth-led organizations from different parts of Assam and India coming together and saying that, we'll run a donation campaign together. So every organization ran its different. So we had a set of initiatives that we ran under our flood relief drive. Someone else did in a different way. And then we collected a total proceed of over 1.6 lakhs. So we collected that within 15 days, Indian rupees. And then we tried to see where we can actually donate. So we found out 3 places in different parts of Assam. And we said, all right, we divided the team, we divided the money. into different in the 3 places. We contacted the district administration in those places to find out the exact number of families, like the flood affected families who have not been able to receive any aid. And then accordingly, we procured relief material, and it was for the money, and then the clothes also we received from a lot of people. So we packaged it, packed them in a proper way. And then with all the teams, like of course, like 50 teams, like cannot go and do the donation together. So 5 teams, that includes Project Saathi, 5 to 6 teams took the lead, and we went to the first place the other day. You must have seen it on our social media already. And then tomorrow again on Monday, we are going to 2 different places and doing the second part of our flood relief drive. So this is it. And lastly, through your platform, I would like to thank every donor and every supporter, well-wisher of Project Saathi who has supported us in this flood relief drive. It's something different that we did. And my sincere thanks to everyone.
Thank you so much for joining today with us, Debargha. So if you guys would like to know more about Debargha and Project Saathi, stay tuned to the Team Pop magazine.